Hello, dear students. Today we will examine the very last events that preceded the outbreak of the Civil War and directly provoked it. After years and even decades of growing tensions between the northern free states and the southern slave states, the Civil War finally broke out on April 12, 1861. We will address today the second focus question of the week, which is, why did the creation of the Confederacy trigger the Civil War? Remember that in response to the election of a Republican candidate to the presidency, Abraham Lincoln, South Carolina and then 6 other Southern pro-slavery states had seceded or left the Union and declared independence as a new country they named the Confederate States of America, or Confederacy. And that was in February of 1861. Now, it's important to note that the separation or independence of the Confederacy need not necessarily have led to the Civil War in of itself. When Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated as new president in March 1861, as seen in this photograph you have in front of you, Lincoln had to make a very important decision. He could either accept the loss of the southern states and their independence, in which case peace could have possibly continued, or he could reject it. In the event, Abraham Lincoln chose to reject the independence of the Confederacy, and he insisted that the southern states rejoin the Union. His decision, combined with the southern states' decision to secede earlier, made war inevitable. Still, war did not come in March. It came next month in April, as we will see in the next and final slide. To repeat, by late March 1861, war was probable and now inevitable due to both the Confederacy's February Declaration of Independence and Lincoln's refusal in March to accept it and his insistence that southern states rejoin the Union. The Civil War itself actually breaks out on April 12, 1861, and the trigger was the refusal of the Union, in other words, the federal government of the United States of America, to give up control over Fort Sumter in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina, a city now in control of the Confederacy, the new country formed by the Southerners. Confederacy troops responded to the federal refusal to hand over Fort Sumter by bombing the fort, as is shown in this illustration, forcing its surrender 2 days after they started by April 14, 1861. The Civil War had now begun. It would prove to be one of the bloodiest conflicts in modern history, lasting 5 years and costing some 700,000 lives. At the heart of the conflict was the question of slavery. Though, it should be said, initially Abraham Lincoln insisted that the war was about preserving the Union, forcing the Southerners to come back into the Union. So, to conclude and answer the second focus question of the week, the creation of the Confederacy in February 1861 ultimately triggered the Civil War when President Lincoln decided to reject Southern independence and to insist that the Union be preserved. Once this decision was taken on the part of the president, war was inevitable, and it begins at Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, on April 12, 1861.